So it's a concern globally. We've seen outbreaks in the UK. We know midterm we will have had people travelling backwards and forwards to the UK for holidays, hence why it was good time and opportunity for us to dust off our plans and remind the public that if you haven't had measles or 2 doses of a measles-containing vaccine, now is a really good opportunity to boost your immunity and raise awareness of the signs and symptoms of measles. So measles typically starts with a sort of cold flu-like illness, conjunctivitis, runny nose, and then the rash starts a few days later. The rash typically starts behind the ears, on the head, and then spreads down through the body. And you're infectious from 4 days before the rash starts to 4 days after the rash has gone. So measles treatment tends to be supportive. There is a limited antiviral medication we can use, but we tend to be supportive treatment. And by that, I mean treat the complications. So it's if you get a secondary bacteria infection, we'll give you antibiotics.
Why are cases rising at the moment?
So in the UK, it's because of falling rates of vaccination. So we're seeing the legacy effect of vaccination levels dipping below 95% from the 1990s. That then plays out through the generations. Measles is really infectious, far more infectious than COVID was. Your listeners may have heard of R0, how many people become infected. For measles, it's 12 to 18. So a single case of measles can go on to infect 12 to 18 non-immune people. So it's very infectious.
So that must be quite a concern for Public Health Gibraltar.
Absolutely. And because we've got vulnerable sections of the population, people think measles is a bit of a rash. A lot of us will have had it when we were children, especially older generation. If you were born before, she says older, putting herself in that category. If you were born before 1990, more than likely you will have been exposed to measles as a child and have some natural immunity. Most people think it's a bit of a rash, but for adults you can end up really poorly and develop some really severe complications of measles. Hence why if you aren't sure, if you don't think you had measles when you were a child and aren't sure about whether you've had 2 doses of vaccine, that's why we're doing a real push on the vaccine now.
So luckily for most, it will be a mild illness, but just how serious can it get?
It can result in hospitalisations, and sadly, the Republic of Ireland reported an adult death from measles a few weeks ago. And again, it's that global picture of the World Health Organization have said they are concerned around increasing rates of measles across Europe. It's just a good reminder time for us to say, actually, if you're not immune, go and have a booster.
So the vaccine we're talking about is the MMR. Talk us through how that works.
Yeah, this is the vaccine that children typically have about 13 months and then a preschool booster. So if you've had that 2 doses, that gives you lifelong immunity. We don't need to worry about those groups who've had 2 doses of the vaccine. Similarly, if you've had measles, that gives you lifelong immunity. You are fine. It's the group who may not have had measles, may not have had 2 doses of the vaccine. They're the ones we're trying to get to.
There's always a lot of concern surrounding vaccinations, the possible side effects. What would you like to say to parents who are perhaps a bit concerned or a bit cautious when it comes to vaccinating their children?
I would say there was a lot of concern in the 90s. People have seen the links of MMR vaccine and speculation, was it connected to autism? That work that the doctor did was disproven. They disproved that link between the MMR vaccine and autism. So I understand parents might have been concerned at that point in time. I would say to parents, it is a safe vaccine. There are common side effects. You can feel a bit unwell after you've had the vaccine. You can perhaps come out in a rash. And there are some rarer side effects as well. For example, in an adult, about 1 in 1,000 people might end up with sort of a severe complication. But these are rare side effects. And it's far, the risk of having a sort of severe illness is far greater from actually having measles.